Now, one of the options you can do at this stage is to work for yourself. Maybe it's continuing your side hustle, starting a new business, or going self-employed. You don't have to wait until you reach financial independence to start enjoying your life. You can do that much earlier and start living a life that you love and that's true to you. Welcome to Freedom Before FI. Using FIRE and life design techniques, we help you create freedom on your way to FI instead of waiting until you're retired to do the things that light you up. I'm your host Greg, a FIRE movement and life design enthusiast. If you're itching to get freedom now, then let's do this. Hello there and welcome back to the show. So we'll be continuing on from the last episode talking about the risks and downsides of Coast FI. On the previous episode, we talked more about the financial risks. But today, I'll be talking more about the psychological risks and downsides, which doesn't really get talked about as much. So I've got 3 of them to talk about, and after those 3 points, I'll give you my thoughts on how to overcome them. Oh, and I also have a hidden extra 4th point to mention, which I'll say at the end. Alright, so let's get going. So the first and most obvious one is that you still have to work. If you've reached Coast FI, this means that you don't have to save and invest a large percentage of your income. That part just becomes optional. So let's say during your accumulation phase, you were saving 50% of your income. Once you hit Coast FI, that means you're able to live off half of your salary. You just have to cover your daily living expenses. So of course, at this milestone, you're not fully fired yet, i.e. you don't have the passive income from your investments covering 100% of your living expenses. So you still have to earn some active income to do so. Essentially, hitting Coast FI means you still have to work, albeit you can in theory work less. So this is something you just have to expect and need to be aware of, particularly if your visions of Coast FI were something similar to being fully FI. Now there is a counter argument here that might help. If someone was fully fired, i.e. reached financial independence, as I mentioned before, I would bet an arm and a leg that they'd still be doing some type of work anyway. I mean, most content creators and people in the FI space who do reach full FI are still doing some type of work. Maybe they're coaching, consulting, blogging, doing all sorts of stuff. Okay, so the second downside to consider is the social perception of you not being an achiever, in air quotes. Now this is more for those who choose to either reduce their hours or take on a less stressful job once they hit Coast FI. And it's when others around you might think differently of you because maybe you quit your prestigious job, maybe you've taken on a new role with a less fancy title, you're working less hours. So we experienced this during our long-term sabbatical. Because we stopped our corporate gigs, some people around us thought we were just lazing around all day. But we were spending quality time with family, especially my parents, working on personal development, working on side projects, traveling, spending time on our hobbies. We were actually quite busy and productive. It just wasn't the typical suit and tie role that was expected of us. But I think it's because those people may not understand the journey that you're on, particularly the older Asian generation, where just sticking to your 9 to 5 was the absolute norm and the expectation. Now, the other related and possible downside here is you might also see your peers in their corporate gigs progressing up the ladder, and you may feel that you're falling behind. Again, this is another mindset issue. Okay, so downside number 3 is the fear of not having a regular income. Now, this is more for those who choose to be self-employed once they hit Coast FI. Hitting Coast FI means you can take on more risks as you don't need as much to get by, especially compared to your accumulation phase. Now, one of the options you can do at this stage is to work for yourself. Maybe it's continuing your side hustle, starting a new business, or going self-employed. The Pioneers mentioned this on a podcast they were on once. When they became Coast FI, they decided to turn their side hustle into a full-time business. Now, one of the struggles they had to deal with was worrying about not having a stable income. This was a fear that kept coming up, but something they were able to deal with. So this could be a position that you might find yourself in, and it's probably a common thing for most entrepreneurs anyway. You could have a decent emergency fund or even a sizable FU pot of money, but not having a regular income, which is seen as the comfortable path, could be quite difficult for some. Okay, so how can we overcome these downsides and manage them? Since they're all kind of similar in a way, they're mainly internal mindset barriers, here are a few tips that might help with all of these scenarios. Okay, so the first one is to try being around people doing similar things. Generally, there's not many people doing this whole FI thing, and chances are you may be the only one interested in all this FI stuff in your circle. So one of the things that's really helpful is to mix with people on the same journey. This could be simple things like joining Facebook groups, meetups, masterminds, local get-togethers of people in the FI community. When I was on sabbatical and running my online workshops, all of the participants were on a similar journey on the FI path, and that really helped. It's nice to speak with others that understand you and know what you're going through. Okay, so the next tip is to keep reminding yourself why you're doing this. When we first start our journeys, we have those visions of having time freedom and doing things we love doing. But after the grind of hitting some goals or milestones, we sometimes think of the next goal, then the next goal, and we can forget why we started the journey in the first place and what our initial goals were. Then, when you combine that with worrying about what others think of you, or not having a stable income, or worried about your peers progressing, it can be tough. So try to bring yourself back to your original why. Maybe it's because you wanted to do something more fulfilling, you wanted to spend more time with your loved ones, you wanted to spend time on your hobbies, you wanted to do more creative things. See, these things could just be simple. Anyway, what you can do is include daily affirmations as part of your routine. Have your why and your original goals written down and look at them frequently. The point here is to refocus on what's really important instead of dwelling on what's not. Another tip you can do is to have those backup plans in place. If you are doing something that's completely new, once you get to Coast FI, for example, maybe it's a new part-time role, a new career, or working for yourself, it's a good idea to have those solid backup plans at the ready in case you need to deploy them. I.e., do you have a solid emergency fund in case you need it? Do you have those contacts in place in case you need to go back to full-time work? Have those options ready to go, like a break glass in case of emergency kind of thing. Now, another thing you can do is to hire a coach. Coaches are trained to tease out answers from within you. So if you're dealing with a mindset issue, having a coach in your corner can help you refocus and reframe your thinking to a positive light. Now, this is helpful if you're struggling to work on things on your own. Okay, so those were some of the tips that can help with those downsides. Now, I did say I had a fourth hidden risk that might pop up, and here it is. Okay, so the fourth hidden risk or downside is not knowing what to actually do with your time. Since Coast FI can allow you to free up more time in your schedule, this means more time to figure out what to do with it. The problem here is you might not know what to do with this time that you freed up. Maybe you want to change career or be an entrepreneur at this stage. Now I can actually help you with this. So I run one-on-one virtual workshops that help you figure things out, like what side hustle to do, what business to start, and what career to pivot to. If this is of interest, just send me an email at greg@freedombeforefi.com. You can also have a listen to episode 36, where I talk about how to find your purpose. We even have a free PDF worksheet if you prefer to do this on your own and in your own time. And I'll drop the link in the show notes. Thank you for spending your time with us today. If you need more help, you can check out our free guides and services on our website, freedombeforefi.com. If you have a burning question or just want to chat, don't hesitate to drop me an email at greg@freedombeforefi.com. If you found the show useful and want to be notified of future episodes, you can click follow on Spotify, Apple, or the app you're currently using right now. If you think the episode will help a friend or a colleague, feel free to share it with them. And lastly, if you learned just one good thing that will help you in your journey and you want to help us out, please do leave a 5-star rating on your podcast player app. That would help us out loads. Alright, so that's what I've got for you today. I hope that's helped you on your Coastify journey. Have a great week and I'll catch you on the next one. And as always, practice gratitude, live life by your design, and do things that make you smile. You got this.